Hello, my name is Charity Wottrich, and welcome to another video. Today we are going to be talking about why people join cults and why they stay in them. As a cult survivor myself, I have some authority on this topic, but I also grew up in the cult that I was a part of, so I don't have the best take on it. So I did a little bit of research for this as well, so I can give my own opinions from my experience and show a little research. I hope that you learn something from this, and if you have a loved one or somebody you know who's in a cult and you're thinking, why? Why are they? I hope this answers some of your questions. I wanted to just say here that my husband is mowing the lawn, so if you hear a rumble of a lawnmower now and again, I hope that that doesn't deter you from watching the video. I'm going to do my best in editing to take it down, but baby E is sleeping, and so now is the best time to film, even if the lawn is getting mowed. And of course, I don't want to tell my husband to ask him to stop mowing the lawn because I really want the lawn to get mowed. So here we are. First thing we're going to be talking about is why does somebody join a cult? So as I stated before, I grew up in a cult, and I have seen people join, and what I was finding in some studies I was looking at similar to what I've seen, which is people join usually when they're at some kind of state of vulnerability. They desire a greater sense of community than what they have. They're already somewhat isolated from friends and family. They are searching for something more. They're dissatisfied with their life, and they're thinking that maybe this thing can be the answer to their questions. The study is called Cult Membership: What Factors Contribute to Joining or Leaving? And they have some statistics here where they interviewed cult members, and a section in this study that says life events that facilitated the commitment. 67.7% said they needed personal development, or they had some kind of life dissatisfaction. So this huge percentage of people have something missing in their life, and they're looking to fill that gap. Next up is 38.7% is being on a spiritual or religious quest. You know, which I personally think is very similar to having something missing in your life. You're on a spiritual quest. You're thinking, I need God, right? But that's 38.7%. And then depressive symptoms, 32.3%. So a lot of people here, again, vulnerable, 33.3% were having depressive symptoms. And so if you have a group coming alongside you who is offering some sort of help when you're in that vulnerable state, you're going to be more likely to participate in that group. We have social presence of the group is 32.3%. So you're seeing these people around you a lot is part of it, which is interesting. In the study, it actually was saying that between first contact with the group and joining the group was 22 months. So from the time that you first, say, met a cult member to the time that you are in the cult, 22 months. So like, what's that? A little over a year and a half, under 2 years, 22 months, which when you think about it, it's still pretty fast for this total life change. 2 reasons cited. 22.6% was they had significant and frequent conflicts with their family. So if you have somebody who is being shunned like within their own group, their family, then they're going to be searching for a new group, right? They're going to be looking for support from somebody. They're going to look for somewhere to belong if they don't belong in their own family. Last one is family members in the cultic group. at 19.4%. So if you already have a member in the group, you're more likely to join. From my own experience and what I've seen, it does seem like people who join cults, not all of them, trust me, not all of them, but it's usually at a vulnerable time in their life when cult members will come in and offer something that the person desperately needs. And don't get me wrong, like as a Christian, as a human being, we should treat other human beings with love and respect. In the cult case, it seems like that has strings attached to it, right? That help has strings attached to it, where as you're becoming a part of that cult, some things start to happen in your life, which is also in this study that I was looking at. Sorry if I can't help but swivel when I'm in a swivel chair, so sorry if that's distracting. It's like I'm distracting myself by doing it, but I can't stop. Anyway, I've seen a lot of vulnerable people join the cult, and I remember a family who, they used to be Amish, but it seemed like they didn't agree with all of the Amish rules. And so our rules in Branhamism were actually less than the rules that were in Amish, but I think it felt still familiar in some ways. So they were leaving the Amish, and the Amish were shunning them. And then they were joining the Message cult and having their new family as part of the Message cult. That's one example I can think of. Other examples are just mostly women, which isn't a surprise to me because women can be more vulnerable than men. And we see that in biblical times where they needed a husband and they needed a man to basically protect them. But in this case, we have women joining where it's not that they need a man to protect them. In this society, there's a little less of that, right? There's a little less of needing a man to protect you in this modern society. A woman can go out and get a job. Anyway, that discussion is totally for another time. But not surprisingly, women are the majority of the ones taken advantage of by a cult. How does a cult impact somebody's life? Well, some of the things cited here are significant reduction of social life, 58.1%. So over half of the people interviewed said that by being a part of this cult, there was a significant reduction of their social life. 45.2% said isolation from family or their spouse. They had 45.2% said significant financial expenses started happening. And I have some ideas about why that, but that's part of it. 38.7% had studies or training or job cessation. So basically their life, almost half, a huge thing. Not only they're joining this religious group, but almost half of them lost their job or quit their job, stopped going to school, stopped whatever training they were doing for whatever reason. So they're having these huge changes in their life based on, there's that correlation there with joining the cult and these huge changes happening in their life. 35.5%, which is pretty high, is saying marital or family separation. So that's a huge percent for such a huge change, right? Over 30% had some kind of separation in their family unit, and 19.4% cited that they had a whole identity change. And so these are huge life-shattering or life-altering changes that happen when they join a cult. So that leads to the next question. Why do people stay in a cult? I have told stories of spiritual abuse and grooming for other forms of abuse. Cults have a lot of toxic tendencies. I also compared cults to abusive relationships in a previous video. So it begs the question, why do people stay in them if they are so horrible? And here are some of the obstacles of keeping people from leaving that I'll read from this study. 41.9% cited that they had people they loved in the group, so romantic relationships or family members in the group, and that was keeping them from leaving. 41.9%, so almost half, cited the reason as one of the big reasons. These aren't like saying that's like the only reason. This is just, they also cite this as one of the reasons. 41.9% said inability or difficulty in questioning the creeds of the group. I can relate to that, where they're trying to control even your thoughts. 29% said feeling of dependence towards the cult leader or the group. So they've incorporated themselves into their lives so much that there is that dependency. They're doing things for you, and you feel like you can't live without them. 22% regressive and reassuring experience in the group. 22% says affinities between cult members of the group. 16.1 feeling of guilt. So guilt tripping is a huge thing, and so that's one of the reasons people don't leave. And social precariousness is 12.9. One of those things that stuck out to me was the reasons when people finally did leave, over 80% was personal initiative. Not somebody coming in and kidnapping them, though a few did cite that. But no, over 80%, the reason that they left was because of personal initiative. If you have a loved one in a cult, ultimately, they're going to have to make that decision. So that's why in my videos that I have of how to talk to a message believer and how to, hopefully aid them in leaving, I say several times that praying is the biggest thing that you can do for them, because this is a whole worldview change, right? Whether you grew up in it or you joined it, your life has changed because of it. You joined it probably, because you were at a vulnerable place. And then the cult filled in those issues. And although they are being abusive, manipulative, and hurting you in some ways, you are going to be afraid of going back to that vulnerable state. It's a whole worldview shifting. And so I think the most important thing that we can do for somebody who is in a cult is pray for them, be there for them. It's up to God to pull somebody out of a cult. I am curious. I would love to hear any ex-cult members in the comments. Why did you join the cult, and why did you stay for as long as you did? I joined because I grew up in it, so I didn't have a choice. But I stayed in it because I had a sense of belonging, a sense of specialness, I guess. There was an exclusivity to it that I really liked, and I was very proud. And I didn't know anything different. I was unable to question, as we've showed. I didn't have friends outside of it. I didn't know anyone outside of it. I had one source of information. There were so many reasons keeping me there. And I had my future set before me that I couldn't visualize a different future because this was all I had known. Leaving it was one of the most hardest things I've ever done, honestly. I can say that truthfully, leaving it was one of those scariest things. if you are in a cult and I'm reading these reasons that you might stay and you're thinking, yep, I am feeling that, you are not alone. Not only have people gone through the exact same or very similar circumstance to you, but also God sees everything going on and God has compassion for you. I want to encourage you with that. Take it one step at a time. Make sure that you're safe. When you leave, work on building that external support network so that when you leave, you have people to call, so that you don't, work on building that dependence outside of the cult before you cut your ties. But you can do it. And with that, that's all I've got for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. Let me know your experience in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye!